I now call on Mr Nick Smith to call the first debate, minimum price of alcohol. Mr Nick Smith.
I'm very pleased, Mr Sheridan, to have secured this debate today. I thank Speaker Bercow for selecting this topic, and I'm glad this debate is to be taking place under your assured chairmanship. I know that alcohol pricing is an issue of great concern to many MPs. It's been raised by backbenchers from all sides of the House in recent Home Office, health and business questions. It's been the subject of a number of early day motions and has received cross-party support. Some have called alcohol misuse and its related health and social problems one of the major problems now facing the UK. So it's right we debate how alcohol pricing can help tackle this problem. A constituent of mine who wrote to me recently said the politicians were too reactive and unwilling to offer leadership on difficult issues. Certainly, the Conservative-led government has made a start, but it is a very timid start on alcohol pricing. I hope they could be persuaded to be bold and to act swiftly. If they don't, then many precious lives could be lost and many lives blighted. The BMA has highlighted the staggering cost of alcohol abuse to the NHS, which is currently £2.8 billion. As the British Society of Gastroenterology put it, there is a serious cost attached to cheap booze, and the UK is currently paying the price. I requested this debate today primarily because of my interest in public health, and I welcome both the Home Office Minister and his shadow here today. We all know that antisocial behaviour fuelled by binge drinking can blight our neighbourhoods, and many are affected in their own homes by domestic violence and relationship breakdown. The British Crime Survey showed that half of all crime is alcohol-related. In 2008, the then South Wales Police Chief Constable warned that in Wales, you're more likely to be assaulted by someone you know than anyone else in the UK. Alcohol plays a huge, huge role in it. Similar findings were set out in the excellent Home Office Affairs report from the last Parliament, produced under the chairmanship of the Right Honourable Member for Leicester East, who I'm pleased is here with us today. Figures released last week show that Wales has among the highest rate of death linked to alcohol in the UK. Over the Christmas period in my local area of Gwent, 95 people were found to be over the limit as part of the Wales Drink Drive campaign. So, despite snow and ice and wind chill at 1,200 feet, when most sober people wouldn't dream of driving, some drivers were on the road and over the limit. In the Christmas recess adjournment debate, I also raised this issue and called on the government for tougher action. A recent alcohol concern report showed that more than 92,000 children and young people under 18 were admitted to hospital for alcohol misuse between 2002 and 2009. Girls are more likely to need hospital treatment than boys. Furthermore, a University of Manchester study found that some young women were consuming more than a week's allowance of alcohol units in a single night. Excessive drinking leads them to take more risks, such as walking home alone when drunk, particularly after the sample day ladies drink for free promotion. Now, since 1970, there's been a threefold increase in cirrhosis, ninefold for those under 45, and the age at which people develop cirrhosis has been falling, with even teenagers now developing liver failure. The Welsh Assembly Government quite rightly wants to take effective action to help people in Wales, but has pointed out that the main levers to make the most significant change remain with the UK Government through the power to legislate on price, licensing and advertising. The UK Government didn't accede to the Welsh Assembly's request for alcohol licensing powers to be devolved. Another issue is the so-called pocket money priced alcohol on offer in supermarkets. This can undermine local pubs, which are generally a place for responsible drinking. My own dad was a publican after he was a steel worker and before he became a bread delivery man, and no doubt other members here today will wish to elaborate on the negative effect this can have on pubs and their local communities. Can I say before I go further that while seeking to reduce harmful drinking, we must in tandem provide adequate funding for alcohol research, treatment and prevention programmes, and sufficient training for health professionals to detect and manage people with alcohol misuse problems. Now, the Public Health Minister, Anne Milton, has said that the government alone cannot improve public health. We need to use all the tools in the box. Well, I would argue that alcohol pricing is a high-powered tool and one that should be accessed right now. Whilst the government is about to act, and let's give it some credit where it's due, unfortunately their proposed minimum price is too low, covering just duty and VAT. As the National Federation of Retail Networks has said, the government's duty plus VAT definition woefully fails to cover the actual cost of alcohol. 40p for a litre of cider can hardly be considered positive action by the government. As far as I'm concerned, the duty of government is to protect and promote the health of its citizens. I am unpersuaded by concerns expressed by the Wine and Spirit Trade Association that minimum pricing hits responsible drinkers and hurts the poor the hardest. I cannot believe that our responsible drinkers expect to get their alcohol at duty plus VAT prices, with no allowance for production or distribution costs. Furthermore, as the Alcohol Health Alliance points out, low alcohol prices means that responsible drinkers are subsidising the behaviour of the 25% of the population who are drinking at hazardous or harmful levels. The effect on moderate drinkers of a minimum price will be low because they consume lower amounts of alcohol. If a 50p minimum price were introduced, this would mean an increase in spending on alcohol of less than 23p a week for a moderate drinker. But a heavier drinker could expect to pay just over £3 a week. As for the poor being worst affected by high prices, I cannot repeat too often that alcohol misuse costs us all £2.8 billion a year. And if you include, for example, the cost of crime and absenteeism from work, the bill would be much, much higher. Now, this is clearly an issue for more detailed research by the government. We know that the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, the BMA, the Association of Chief Police Officers, and others have called for a realistic minimum price for alcohol. So, how can the government justify the low minimum price for alcohol, which only covers taxes but not production and distribution costs? Just don't get it. Will this really reduce binge drinking in our towns, particularly for vulnerable young women? Perhaps the Minister will tell us today. A spokesperson for the British Liver Trust said on BBC News 24 that the government's proposal would save 21 lives a year. Good, I know. But I understand that research commissioned by the Department of Health demonstrated that a minimum unit price of 20p, 30p, 40p or 50p would prevent 30, 300, 1,300 and 3,300 deaths respectively. Thank you.
We all recognise his desire to increase the price on the supermarket shelves and discourage the kind of unscrupulous pricing behaviour we've seen from the supermarkets. But does he understand that one of the unintended consequences of minimum pricing is that actually it could skew the market and encourage particularly young people to drink drinks like vodka, which is increasingly becoming a problem amongst young drinkers?
Nick Smith.
I think the particular point about discouraging young people is powerfully made. Unintended consequences can be a problem, I know, and that's why I think we need more research on this issue. Having said that, I still think the price the government suggested is way too low. Sure, I'll give way.
Aye, Wales.
Very grateful, and on that point, isn't it more likely that minimum pricing would encourage young people to drink responsibly in public houses, supporting the traditional pub industry, and also providing a degree of supervision?
I think the Honourable Member makes a very powerful point. Coming back to this possible 50p rate, it's not surprising that the former Chief Medical Officer, Liam Donaldson, has called for a 50p minimum price unit, which it's estimated could save 3,300 lives a year. Doesn't this proposal from such an eminent source with a distinguished record of public service merit very serious consideration?
Would the member give way?
Happy to give way.
I thank the honourable member for giving way. Would the member agree that along with the clear need to have the price of alcohol increased, there's also a need for an education strategy coming from the health department itself, whether that is a shock strategy to try and shock people into realising what would happen to them? Because we have many people that I know of my area unfortunately end up with liver problems at a very early age. So would the member agree that there's a need to have an education strategy from the health department as well as a concerted campaign from the supermarkets as well?
I thank the Honourable Member for that intervention. I think it's really important that there's greater public awareness of the dangers of excessive drinking of alcohol. Of course, as of today, still no legislative plans have been put before Parliament to implement the government's half measure to end below-cost selling. None are included in the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Bill currently in committee. Can the Minister tell us today how they intend to introduce their proposal? Will we have legislation now or action in the budget? Some more details would be helpful. Also, the Minister, James Brokenshire, has said the government will consider the rate of duty of super-strength lagers. But how long will this take? Mr Sheridan, in opposition, the Conservatives promised to, I quote, call time on drinks that fuel antisocial behaviour. The government knows there's a clear link between alcohol price and the harms associated with alcohol, but it's too timid on alcohol pricing. It's concerned that everyone would be penalised if a realistic minimum pricing were introduced. But as I said earlier, I don't believe the argument holds water. Rather, I think... Happy to give way.
Mr Sheridan, can I apologise for being late into the debate, and I congratulate the honourable member on obtaining this debate. And in the research papers that we received on this, it says very clearly that 2/3 of the public believe that the amount of alcohol people drink in Britain is out of control. We have young people in my constituency from the age of 10 years of age who can easily access alcohol. It's destroying their lives. And can I say, Mr Sheridan, also in my own business, which I declare an interest, a 16-year-old a short time ago was diagnosed as being an alcoholic at 16 years of age.
Nick Smith.
I think the honourable member makes a very good argument. I am, for example, concerned about the promotion of alcohol at cinemas, where it's too easy for young people to be influenced. Alcohol marketing creates new young drinkers, many of whom, unfortunately, think it is cool to drink in excess. We have to teach them to enjoy a drink, as many of us do, without drinking too much. So, more regulation may be necessary. France, for example, bans drink advertisements both in the cinema and on TV. They've also got a great rugby team who play with real elan. Finally, we've developed a culture in our country, and this refers to the points made earlier, where alcohol and sport go too easily together. We all remember the days when John Player sponsored cricket and Embassy sponsored snooker and darts. It is salutary to reflect on the fact that some of our greatest sports personalities, such as George Best and Alex Higgins, have fallen foul of too much drink. We need a major cultural change, and our sports administrators should note the contradiction about alcohol sponsorship of sport and their primary goal to promote sporting success and physical well-being for us all. Mr Sheridan, watching the Heineken Cup and having a pint is for me one of life's pleasures. But it would still be a great tournament if it was sponsored by another industry and drinking in moderation was seen as cool by our young people. Thank you.